2021. Here we are. Happy New Year, everybody. I hope you're having a fantastic day. I hope you had a great night last night. I personally did. I stayed up till midnight in order to see 2020 through to the end. I was watching the movie There Will Be Blood with my father, and then I watched a little bit of the New Year's Eve broadcast. Side note, There Will Be Blood is a great movie. Check it out. Anyway, I'm coming on here to both wish everyone a happy 2021 and a happy New Year, but also to talk about 2020. There's a ton of year-end lists being produced right now by a bunch of different people in a bunch of different categories, mainly music. But I want to talk about some of my defining moments of 2020 and things that really made 2020 a good year for me. While I struggled a lot of 2020, through a lot of 2020, I was struggling emotionally and mentally through the year as I found it hard to process new routines and just like the new world around me as everything was burning down. If you know what I mean. 2020 still had its good. And I don't outright hate 2020 like most people do. I like to see the positive in everything. I don't like to push something aside and say that it's bad just because of the state of the world. And a lot of the time my final thoughts on a year are based off my own experiences, not stuff that happened in the world that I'm not involved in or I don't have any control over. So for me personally, 2020 was a good year. Although it had its good and it had its bad. Can you talk about some of the good? Right at the very beginning of 2020, around January, which seems like 6 years ago. January 2020, I got the extraordinary opportunity to go with. So I went with some of my friends to a Phoenix Suns basketball game. The Phoenix Suns being the local basketball team for the city of Phoenix, Arizona. I got to go to 2 Suns games in the span of a month. 2. And they were a couple of weeks away from each other. The first time was epic. Because when I went to that first Suns game, I got the extraordinary opportunity to go down to the floor of Talking Stick Resort Arena in Phoenix during the Suns game. Well, it wasn't during the game, it was like when they were practicing. I stood on the sidelines, I was literally watching the Suns players practicing before the game, and I got to stand behind them for the national anthem performance, which at the time I thought that was just amazing, and it's still one of my favorite memories of 2020, and I think it was a great way to kick off what ended up being a ridiculous year. Another one of my favorite moments was all my day trips in 2020. Right around when the pandemic began, I went with my father. We rented a Corvette, a actually really pretty red Corvette. We drove all the way down the Beeline Highway in Arizona. We went to a town called Payson, and we just kind of had a nice day trip. And I'm a person who loves to travel and loves to explore. I mean, I have a giant world map sitting in my bedroom, for Christ's sake. Anyway, I love to travel, and I also love doing day trips. Arizona is a very broad and diverse state. There's a lot going on in just one state. There's a ton of different environments, cultures, and atmospheres all within one area. So, day trips are a great way to explore the different facets of Arizona. And they also just gave me this sense of relief and comfort knowing that for a span of a day, I could go somewhere like Jerome or Prescott or even Flagstaff up north and just relax and chill. Just get away from the rest of my life. Another one of my one of another one of my defining moments was the moment I got to the beach in California. I go to California every single year for the 4th of July. It's been a tradition for about 10 years at this point. So I've been doing it a long time. This year was a bit this year was, I mean, in 2020 it was a bit tough because right around when the pandemic broke out originally in March, my family was certain we weren't going to be able to go to California. I wasn't going to let that happen. I, for months, relentlessly talked my parents into going to California, and eventually we found a moment in time where the pandemic slowed down to a point where it could be safe for travel between both states. I went to California and I had an amazing time. It remains my second favorite trip of 2020. But this is one moment in particular when I got to Manhattan Beach. Me and my family, when we drove to the beach and I stepped foot in the ocean for the first time in 2020, it was like a moment of salvation, because for 3 months I was locked in my house doing school relentlessly for 3 months. And I had just graduated from middle school and I was about to start high school. And just the joy on people's faces and the atmosphere on the beach that day. It was as if the pandemic disappeared for just a minute and it like completely just vanished. And I was there at the ocean, place I had come to love over the course of 10 years. And I felt this salvation that really came as healing to me. Another one of my defining moments of 2020 came in the fall of 2020, right after my birthday. It was October of 2020. I went to Colorado for the first time in 11 years. I had been to Colorado before fall of 2020, and that was 2009, 11 years ago. So it had been a bit of a while. I finally went back to Colorado this year, and it blew my mind. Like, I've seen some pretty beautiful places, but Colorado, oh my god, Colorado is stunning. I went to the Denver Boulder area of Colorado, and I knew a little bit of what I was getting myself into. I didn't think it'd be that beautiful. In a span of 45 minutes, I went from the airport to Denver, which are like two completely different places. For some reason in Colorado, I don't know why you decided to put your international airport in the middle of nowhere, 45 minutes outside of Denver. But hey, you do you. Anyway, I stayed in Denver for about a night, and Denver is a cool city. I might do a city spotlight video on it sometime in 2021 when I have the time. Denver is a really cool city. 16th Street Mall, wow, that's a mouthful, is a really cool piece of town. I found it to be a really, really cool place to walk and hang out. And while Denver's a really, really big city, but it has some of the best architecture I've ever seen. As a matter of fact, the area near the train station in downtown Denver reminds me, has this European vibe to it. It's almost Czech Austrian type aesthetic going on. It's really, really pretty. Actually, when I was there, I went to a farmer's market, which was really cool. It was regular people mingling and going about their day. It's honestly really cool. 3 towns I visited whilst during that trip really blew my mind. That's Boulder, Estes Park, and Cheyenne, Wyoming. Yes, Cheyenne, Wyoming. While I was in Colorado, my father and I decided it would be a great idea to drive from Boulder to Cheyenne, Wyoming, and then from Cheyenne to Bushnell, Nebraska. Yes, Nebraska. We did it. We actually did that. So towards the end of my Colorado trip, I went to Cheyenne, Wyoming, and I was honestly pretty impressed. I like Wyoming. I like Cheyenne a lot. Cheyenne is this really, really pretty old side of the highway, or like side of the train tracks town, because Wyoming loves their trains. As a matter of fact, I was at a restaurant in Cheyenne. It was actually it was originally an 1800s train depot prior to being a restaurant. So outside there were these huge train tracks that have probably been there since the 1800s. And I actually got to see a train go by, and honestly, it's really cool. Cheyenne, what's interesting, the weirdest thing I noticed about Cheyenne, it is quiet. Wyoming is the least inhabited state in the United States, and that shows. Because the Cheyenne is a quiet, lonely, and really this very interesting town. But it has great architecture. If you're into like classic Wild West stuff, go to Cheyenne. You'll be impressed. Anyway, another one of my defining moments was my 2020 virtual middle school graduation, conducted through Zoom. Again, if the pandemic never happened, I would have gotten a normal graduation from middle school, and I would have gotten a absolutely bombastic performance of one of my favorite songs ever. But that never came to fruition. But I did get a really cool ceremony. This being my cap I used for my middle school graduation. As you can see, I decorated it with a quote from my favorite song of all time, The Adventure by Angels and Airwaves. Yeah, 2020 wasn't an awful year. For me personally, I liked a lot of 2020 because of those defining moments. One last one. Over the course during 2020, more specifically during the latter end of 2020, I started to do a lot more. I started to do creative writing, and this I did religiously, and I still continue to do. As a matter of fact, I'm working on a new series right now. Anyway, there's one story in particular I crafted at the end of November 2020. That's basically me writing about my life story. Apparently, it struck such a good chord with my family and with my family, they decided to share it, and I actually got to present it with the, then I actually got to present it, and it was just an amazing experience for me and my family, and I'm actually remain very proud of it. My writing mostly focuses on autism advocacy and awareness because that is something that's super important to me as someone on the spectrum. I feel it's important to advocate for the community to give a voice to the community and really give them a central spotlight in the main spin of things. Anyway, in the end, I don't hate 2020. 2020 could have been a world better. If being quite honest, there are things that I lost in 2020 that would have been amazing to actually have gotten the experience of being able to do, but certain circumstances prevail. That's why I'm so excited for 2021. This 2021 has been a year I've been waiting for a long time. This is going to be a big year for me and for my family, and also for this channel, because I have a lot of new ideas coming for this channel in 2021. I want to make this channel mostly focus on being an autism advocacy channel, place where I can jump on and share stories, share advice, share just share information and share stuff that's on my mind and stuff I've heard in the community and a place to give my thoughts and also give encouragement and inspiration to the autism community at the same time. I'm also cross your fingers, I'm going to be doing some huge trips this year. Like 2021 is going to be a big travel year for me, and since my YouTube channel is called Punk Rock Traveler, I'm gonna be documenting as much of my trips this year as humanly possible in order to live up to my channel. Documenting, vlogging, every minute, everything of my trips in 2020 and 2021. I've been talking about 2020 way too much. Anyway, that was a little less of my defining and best moments of 2020. Happy New Year, happy 2021. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share out my videos. It really helps. If we can get to 21, I'd love to get to 21 subscribers because 2021, duh. And 21 is my favorite number. So if we can get to 21 subscribers by May, that'd be awesome. Enjoy. Happy 2021.